Welcome back. It's time to make the twiddly legs, the three of them that sit down onto the floor. Now last time, if you remember, I'd come up with the fabulous idea of making a template on the laser cutter, which meant I could use the laser cutter for the first time in this project. Then I realised what an idiot I've been, because in order to cut these out, I can't fit huge sheets of MDF on the bandsaw, so I'm going to cut them into little bits anyway. And I thought, well, hang on, if I'm going to do that, why not mark them out with the laser cutter? The MDF stock is diminishing very quickly because I'm turning it into smaller bits. Right, we have 9 of the 15, 6 of the 12. We're going to sandwich them together like so. So we've got a thin bit on either side, which is going to be the sort of ridge that sticks out all round, and then the solid middle. Cunning plan. Hopefully my brain isn't too much of a muscle this morning. So there's the design I want to cut out. There's a little red mark in the corner, top right hand corner, to indicate that, so let's give it a go. And this is another reason why I don't want to cut these out on the laser cutter, other than the fact it would take loads of passes and take ages. The amount of smoke that's produced when you cut MDF, and this is just drawing a little line on the surface. And imagine how much it would produce just to cut it through, and it's always a little bit sticky, the soot and the smoke, and everything gets all nasty. We don't want that. Any excuse to hammer lots and lots of nails into pieces of wood. I pinned that on, and I thought, and got the pins in the middle and around the edge just to hold it while I cut it on the bandsaw, and then thought, hey, hold on a minute, I needed one of these on the other side, but I don't know where to put the pins, so I've had to use the square just to transfer the measurements over to the bottom, where I can now ensure that I'm not going to use the bandsaw to start sawing through nails or pins or anything. I've just fallen in love with the bandsaw again. Not that I was ever truly out of love with it, but they are amazing things. Look at this, and this is a really old blade. And I thought, should I put a new one on? No, let's just give it a go. Amazing, it's cut through 6 of these layers perfectly vertically, all the way around. It even did corners, radiuses and things without snapping the blade. I'm absolutely thrilled. I didn't video it because every time I put the video camera on when doing something like this, it always goes horribly wrong. But I may just give it a go for the next one. Obviously I just had to try it in position. That's going to look really nice with 3 of them around, with the holes and the cutouts. How satisfying, what a joy. It's so lovely making stuff like this. And what I've done now is I've marked on the ends the top A's, B's and E's and all the rest of it, so I know that I can match these up perfectly. Now I've sanded them a little bit as well. So I'm going to take the tops and bottoms off, fix them together, and then I think I'm going to use the bandsaw and just cut in, because it's so much easier than the jigsaw, and the jigsaw does tend to wander. I can then quickly cut out the centre parts, in fact, like so, this bit of the tops and the bottoms. Well, I've got the tops and bottoms off, but rather than cutting them out, I feel like a little break from the bandsaw, lovely though it is, I want to drill some holes. I want to drill the holes through the centre of this. There's 4 of them, dear friends, 4 that is. Diameter 42, 32, 20, 32. Now, just been going through my eclectic collection of drill bits, and I have got, what's that, 1 1/4, which is 32. So I've got a 32 perfect. I'm going to use a flat bit to drill this. Why is that wobbly? Because there's cat on me. I'm going to use it because I've just sharpened it on my belt sander, which is probably not something to be recommended, but just to get 2 very nice sharp edges. I've tried it and it does give, even when it was blunt, quite a good hell. I'm going to clamp it down so that I can use one hand to go up and down with, and the other hand to hold the hoover to try and stop too much dust getting into the workshop. I say, governor, that is perfect. Lovely, and it just went through just enough to cut through the far side. During the meanwhile, look what's arrived. This is really exciting. 40 of these 40mm diameter, 50 of them, 40mm diameter domes, wooden domes. The perfect rivets, exactly like they are on the drawing. I'm so excited about that. I couldn't resist getting them in the end. I thought I've just got to get them because it's going to make it look absolutely wonderful. And it will be a feast of joy and pleasure. Sitting there with a pot of glue and a pencil marking out the centres and then gluing these on. It doesn't get much better than that. And these are actually from a company, well, not Ticket or something. Some other Golem? No, it's not Go. I don't know who they are anyway. But they were the cheapest ones I could find. I think they're about 40 to 45p each, which was the cheapest, as I say. And it was a sort of high-quality educational toy shop online. So your sweet little darlings can get used to sensory overload by playing with lots of wooden domes. How exciting. In the end, I went with the lovely German adjustable spade drill bit because I was thinking ramming this spinning at 2500 RPM into fluffy sort of MDF probably isn't a good idea. So in the end, I turned down the speed with the lovely rubber belt system and nice exciting pictures. So it was going much slower. And then I found, just by being pretty forceful with it, the middle bit would actually screw out the centre and this would cut out the rest, and I'm really thrilled with that because I was about to start buying other bits and pieces. Brilliant. Holes, tick. Next job, cut out this middle bit. Another brilliant use for these V blocks. They have got 1,000 uses around the home and garden. And this, I'm using them just to line up and ensure these are all vertical. Fabulous. I used the template because plus or minus a mil with this thickness is absolutely fine, and I'd like to err slightly on thicker rather than thinner. So I've drawn around that. I'm going to cut them in 2 lots, 3 on each. So I'm now going to pin them together, and I'm going to use the bandsaw, and I'm just going to cut in from one side. I haven't quite figured out where. It means filling, once they've glued and pinned down, just filling a little slot about 2mm, 1mm thick, but that's fine. It's so much easier. Do see, that's come out very nicely. So let's look at this, A and B. So let's pull this apart. I'll do that. Give me a moment. That's going to look really nice. We know the outside line's up because we've sanded all that, so that's fine. And the inside looks like it's perfect, even though I say so missing. That's going to look lovely. Now I'm not going to glue these on yet and fill this little slot because, dear friends, I couldn't resist buying a tool. I just thought these holes would look beautiful with a slight radius on them. So I've gone and ordered, which is going to hopefully be delivered tomorrow, a router bit with a bearing follower in the middle that rounds it over to, I think I went with the radius 2mm. So beautiful little edge. It means I can use them on these both sides. It's great fun to do, which may have a contributing factor. I can also, theoretically, I could run it around the tops of these sides of anything just to make it look really nice, because obviously if these were real cast iron, they would have been cast in sand. And sand with patterns and things, you can't have sharp corners because it gets stuck in the sand when you try and lift the pattern out, and it all just collapses and crumbles away. So you always have a slight radius and nice slight draft angles. Anyway, I'm getting carried away, remembering my days teaching aluminium sand casting, which was fabulous. A brilliant experience for the students. Anyway, just before I take the dog for a walk, I can't resist trying some of these wooden domes to see what they look like. Oh, they look lovely. That is so exciting. When you see, when you're involved in turning what's only been a 2D drawing into a real object, it is so enjoyable. That's going to look brilliant. I can't wait to stick all them down. There's also another row, I think, if memory serves, around this bit, so they're going to have to be sanded slightly so they fit against this curve. Lovely. Right, Come on, doggy, let's go for a walk. An excuse for some more laser cutting? Well, dear friends, I was just thinking about how to position the balls around the base, the domes rather, and I started using a pair of compasses and things to try and work it out, and then I suddenly thought, hold on, I've got a proper CAD drawing of this and I've got a laser cutter. What more could a boy want? So I'm cutting out a template. Never miss an excuse to use the laser cutter. There you go, there's one I marked on earlier. Then that, there's always a weak link in the chain, and it's usually me that's thought, well, they sold them as 40mm diameter, so obviously they've got to be. But no, let's find out what they actually are. It is, what's that, 0.5 millimetre? I don't even know what I'm looking at. No, it's 0.1mm too big. Pretty accurate, but obviously if you want something to fit tightly in an eel, you need it bigger. So I'm going to have to cut another one out with bigger holes. A blob of glue. Squidge it around. Camera on, so it's gone over the edge. White fingers under the table. There you go. Can push that down, twist it around to make sure it's bonded properly, and then lift it off and then move it round. How much fun is that? That's worked really well and looks delightful, even though I say so myself. Next job, need to stick them in the centre around here. Now there's an issue with that because this is curved and that's flat. There are several things I could do that I've lay awake at night thinking about. One is just to glue them on and be damned, but obviously that's not good enough. That's not an option. Another is to glue them on and then fill around the edges, which is stupid. Another idea was to build some complicated jig with a circular disc sander on the front to sand a little disc for each one. Yes. There's another source of rounded sanding capability in here. It's there, it's on top of the sanding machine. So what I'm doing is just to offer it up here and rock it backwards and forwards and keep checking that it's right, and that's very, very quick. So I'm going to do it like that. Just cutting out some cardboard spaces for the vertical domes or horizontal domes. The doorbell's just gone and it's something really exciting. Let's see what it is. Am I right? It's rattly. It's in a box. What could it be? Ooh, I am so pleased. Having ordered that last night, it's arrived. Isn't that beautiful? What a thing of beauty. A lovely big bearing. That means you can run along the edge of a piece of wood. And 4 beautiful little 2mm, I think I remember getting it. That means after I've stuck the balls on, because I should really do that, clear up some space. Look, you see, do you see? And put that in there and roll that round once it's in the router with the height set correctly, and it'll radius all the holes beautifully. I can't wait. Well, that was fun. How enjoyable, sticking all the little cardboard templates and then gluing all the spheres in. The masking tape holding them all vertically and in place while the glue sets. Right, lift that on the floor and then do the routing. But on a scrap piece of wood. And look, an old workmate that's been normally used to support the spraying area, which is quite handy because any dust that comes off the router will get sucked away straight away. So I'm just going to try and do this hole and see how well it works. Action! And that's what happens when it's not set right. Too deep, you get an extra ridge around top and bottom, which I really don't want, so oh, what a pain. That's better. 10 minutes of minor adjustments later, that's perfect. It just rounds over and you don't get that little ridge. Good. That looks nice. Obviously I realised that the bearing that comes with the cutter is 20mm diameter, and that hole is 20mm diameter. So I just have to plunge in, which means it burns a little bit, but that's absolutely fine, that won't show up. Right, I'll get the others done. Another great use for a pillar drill. The insides of these are slightly rough where the bandsaw blade went. So, fantastic little things. I've got a set of about 5 of them. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's better. Smoothed it all out, and then I've got an even smaller one which I'll use once I've got all 6 done this way, just to do these 2 very, very small radiuses there. In fact, to do these tight radiuses I need one even smaller, and here's one I prepared earlier. It's so simple, just a bit of dowel, a slot up the middle and a bit of abrasive paper wrapped around it. It's absolutely perfect. It's loose, but as you tighten it up and use it, it all comes together. And there we have them. I've fixed on the sides, having sanded them, glued a bead of glue around on the underneath, and then pinned them around, getting the outsides lined up accurately. Same with that one, and there are the 2 bandsaw slots. So my next job, having used a punch to punch down the heads of all the nails, the pins, I'm going to do lots of filling very quickly. Fill all these little dips here and squidge some filler in there, possibly with a bit of tape either side, just as a guide to fill it. Ta-da! I am very happy with that. That looks lovely. And there's the gaps here for the big girders that come up to support the top. I'm very pleased with that. That looks lovely, and these little girders sticking out, they look great as well. But do you see, I've just noticed, I've got this row of spheres in exactly the wrong place. Thanks very much for watching. I'm sure I've got enough for a video now. Hope to see you next time, when I hope to have moved these ball spheres round and to get these finished and possibly start on the next big girders and possibly start painting and all sorts of other exciting things. Thanks again. I'm always happy to answer any questions or queries in the comments. Check out my website, steamhead.co.uk, for lots of information on all the other things that I make and do. Hope to see you soon. Oh, and remember to subscribe if you like this sort of thing. Thanks again.